Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Starfield with Bad Day Guy Gaming. As you can tell, there's been some changes. I have been to the lair of the mantis, and with that came some goodies. As you can tell, I'm wearing a different suit. And no, it's not the mantis suit. The reason why is this suit, even without the legendary bonuses, is significantly stronger than the Mantis suit. Yes, it had a couple of perks, protection from fall damages, some odds and ends, but I never suffer from fall damage because I actually use my jetpack when landing to soften that, so don't really have a problem with that. While some of the things like the helmet did give better thermal protection and a couple of things, my traditional melon guard here, which is my new one, I should say. This one's actually better for me, specifically because my character is a combat veteran and I automatically get 15% reduction in damage from all humans. Analyzer, I get a plus 10% damage to scan targets. Now, once I get my scanner maximized, I can basically scan all the enemies if I sneak up to some place where there's a bunch of people. And everybody I scan, I will then get a plus 10% damage to them. And then the reactive, a 10% chance to stagger nearby attackers. So anybody who's nearby that I'm shooting at, I have a 10% chance to stagger them. And then with the ballistic shielding, this thing is pretty awesome for a helmet. Yes, I am using the Mantis backpack because of two main things. The 25% oxygen consumption is pretty good. The 20 carry weight, that's a biggie for me because I get overloaded often. And the mirrored, a 4% chance to reflect attacks back on the enemy. That is pretty good. The thing I hate about it is the color. I know that there are some mods out there that will change this to a different type of appearance, and I unfortunately will probably be installing one of those ASAP. Because while I like the really cool look of the Hunter spacesuit, which is very strong, the big giant white shoot me here target on the back does not look so good. So I will be doing something to change the appearance of that. I really do hope in the future they add some cosmetic options to these so that you can change the color of that pack or do something. Until then, until some mods that reskin the existing look, because I don't mind the shape, I think that's pretty cool. If they could reskin it in some different colors, I would probably do that, but otherwise I'm probably going to choose a mod that completely swaps it out with a different model of backpack entirely. Weapons. I still have my trusty pistol. Let's see. I still have my Gramps Shotty. I just moved it into the number 2 slot because that's my primary shotgun now. I got a new one, a pistol. This one's legendary. The main reason why I did this, I'm using this as basically a sniper pistol. I tend to avoid combat at extreme long range, so I tend to do a little bit closer. But the key with this one is instigating. It deals double damage to targets with full health. At a standard damage of 92, that bumps it up to 184 for that first shot, which is huge. So the key is, if I could just shoot each enemy whenever I have the opportunity to initiate combat, I could shoot each enemy once to do massive damage, and then switch to whatever other weapon I'm going to finish them off with. And the boomstick. This is basically the grenade launcher. I did extend the barrel, did a few upgrades on it that I was able to do. It came with a tactical stock. I think, yeah, the only thing I could do was up that. It is a legendary, so it randomly deals incendiary damage, so even if it doesn't blow them up, it can randomly set them on fire. And then I still have my good old Diggy Pop, my mining machine. As far as my standard suits, I'm still going with the hazmat suit. It still provides the best overall protection. And then pretty much the basic stuff. I do have a few minerals and things on me and some stuff that I do need to put away. But here is the reason why I am here. I do have my ship, which is nice, which is powerful. It never fails. There's always somebody coming into land. Well, let's get over here and talk to this guy because I would like to have a bit of a conversation about my ship.
You should inspect your ship for heat leeches every couple landings. They'll cause plenty of havoc if left unchecked.
No problems, I will do that. But first,
I'm sure you can find something you like.
Let's go to sell. Switch ships. Here's the catch. With the Razorleaf, if I were to sell this, it's only 17,000 credits. So, yeah, I've got the ship. Apparently I don't have to register it. But as it is, if you look at the red on there, it kind of sucks. Excuse me. The lasers and weapons and everything, yeah, they're okay. It does have the missiles on there, you know, for power and stuff, but the engines are less than mine. Shield is the same. Grav drive, which is irrelevant. You only need one bar in the grav drive. The only difference all that rest of that power makes is how much you can spool the engine, and that's how quickly you can spool it up, and that's pretty much it. So cargo capacity is a joke, 420. My ship's over 1,050. Shielded capacity, this does have 160 shielded cargo, but I tend not to deal with stolen goods very much. If I do have stolen goods, I know a couple of tricks on how to turn them into not stolen, but most importantly, I know where to go to sell them without that being an issue. So I don't need to bother with the shielded cargo. And not only that, shielded cargo is very heavy. If you look at the total mass of the ship, it is huge. And the problem with many of these ships, when you try to add too much cargo, is landing gear. It is very easy to go over the landing gear limit, and you know, it's hard to get landing gear sections to put on your ships to make them better, so especially with a Class A. So I had some ideas about what I might do to upgrade this. I do like the cockpit. I do think it is cool. And since this is basically a one-of-a-kind ship, I do want to keep it. But I am going to completely rework it. So that's why we are here. So let's go back. I'd like to view and modify my ships.
Sure, have at it.
And let's go to here. Now I am going to have this my home ship from now on because I'm going to keep the other, but this is going to be my new one. So press H to make it your home ship, and then ship builder. Now some of the first things I am going to do is get rid of all the weapons on here because I'm going to rework the weapons. The weapons that are on here, not very good. Everybody says, ooh, this is such a great ship. It's actually not. Now this shield generator looks pretty cool. Not as good as what I can get very easily. So that's going away. This fuel tank, I need one that snaps vertical coming up from a snap point below. So I am going to have to get rid of this. I'm getting rid of the shielded cargo container because I'm not going to have places to put them. Most importantly, when I'm done with this, I am literally going to be on the edge of the maximum mass that I can make this. So let's start by doing a bit of disassembly. Let's move out the engine, the pylons. The rear landing gear, let's move those out, set those to the side. Okay, we've got some rear engines that we're going to pull out. We are going to pull out the reactor. We're going to pull out the jump drive. I'm going to move this cowling to the front because I am keeping that. Now here is, oh, these little weapon mounts. Come on, grab it. There you go. Let's move these out here. I'm going to be keeping those. The key is what I figured out to do to modify this is to turn it into what I think is the best option for keeping the ship and having everything intact. So one of the first things I need to do, stretch these out here because I'm going to need the room. And then spin this around. Now here I have the captain's quarters, which is pretty cool. You could save money by not buying another one. We have an armory. So what I'm going to do is, first thing, I'm going to add a new section in here. So G for get, and then you could do a companionway or a storeroom. You can also go down with the Nova Galactic stuff, but because of the shape of this ship, I like this shape and style. So I am going to go with the storeroom just because I like how it fits and works the best. Now, since I am keeping the landing gear on each side exactly as it is, but I do want to move this hatch to the underside of that 1x1. The reason why is there's the ladder that goes up to that hatch. I want to have to come out of my cockpit. That ladder will be on the side, and I can run right through this room easy, but then I will not have that ladder in the middle of any of my other habs, possibly making it more difficult to move around. Now, since I have these two habs that I do want to keep, there's the captain's quarters, and then there's the armory. The other one that I want to add, which is going directly in the center, go to G for get, is the Deimos Workshop. Now the cool thing about the Deimos Workshop is it has the weapons workbench, and it has the armor workbench, and it has a general manufacturing workbench in it. So that I absolutely want, and I want that you can put it in the center if you want, or you could put the captain's quarters in the center in order to have a workway kind of on each side. I'm going to do different. I'm going to put the workshop directly in the center, and then I am going to snap my living quarters to one side, and then I'm going to put the armory on the others. Now there is an option, because you do have the workshop section. If you want a medical station to be able to produce your own meds, you would have to get the 2x1 med bay. But I find meds not to be too much of an issue. They're super light, super small, so you can store tons of them in your captain's locker without it taking up actual space on your inventory. Meanwhile, weapons are an entirely different story. And the point of having the armory is because it has a ton of crates and storage and things for your different types of weapons. You can do weapons, suits, helmets, everything. Now, if you want to save money, you can go with this setup. However, me personally, I'm not crazy about the captain's quarters layout on this particular ship with this particular format. So I don't recommend you doing this, but I am actually going to replace both of these. So I'm going to replace the armory and the captain's quarters with different models. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace those with the Nova Galactics. There's the all-in-one berth, which is the standard one, just like the other ship, so you don't really have to learn where anything is. And then there's two different models of that. You can get the Nova Galactic Armory. And the reason why I'm going to select the Nova Galactic Armory is because I've went through and looked, and in actuality there is a little bit more storage with the Nova Galactic Armory compared to the other one. So I'm going to select this to put on one side. Now on the other side, which I am replacing the captain's quarters, I can do an all-in-one berth, which gives me 2 beds but no storage, or you can select something more like the captain's quarters that gives you less storage and only 1 bed. And I despise the fact that crew members take my bed, so I'm not going to do the captain's quarters. I am going to do the which one was it? The 2x1 living quarters. I'm going to do this one because even though it does not provide me... Oh, I'm going to have to click it onto here. The living quarters. The reason why I'm going for the living quarters... Or wait, it's not the living quarters. Hold on. I think it is the... all-in-one berth A, all-in-one... Oh, that's the command console and everything in it. So it is the living quarters one that has 2 beds in the kitchen and all the different things like that in it. And then once you add these on, now you can start doing some of the changes that you're going to want to do. You're going to want to drag back over your jump drive, snap it onto the back side, reactor onto the other side. Doesn't matter which side you put these on. Now I will be changing some of these here in just a moment. So, but first, one of the things you want to do is go ahead and put your docking bay onto the back, which I greatly dislike the rear docking bay, but unfortunately that's kind of where we are with this. So in order to not spend too much money, and as you see now with the weapons off, I'm to the positive, but I do have to replace those, we're going to pop these engines back on. And currently these engines have a mass of 100. You're going to save a little bit of money later by actually switching these out. So you're going to have these onto here. You're going to put your rear landing onto the sides of your reactor and jump drive. Now the front landing gear are on these sloped pylons on the front here. So these are the front landing gear while this is the rear. And then what you're going to want to do after this point is take your pylon and your engine and snap them to the lower edge. This does give your ship a much lower profile, actually making it harder to hit in space, which, you know, for a ship that's called the Razorleaf, it was a little bit on the tall side. Now, this cowling, which has 3 masts and is not necessary, I actually decide to keep that because of the fact that the cockpit sits so much taller, and then with the remainder of the modifications it actually comes out to look pretty cool. So once you're at this point, there are a couple of things you're going to want to add here. So go in first, go to structural. And what you're going to look for is the Nova Bracer. These are the good because they're only 3 mass. And remember, when I'm done with this, I am going to be skirting the maximum amount of mass that this ship can carry. So 1 goes here. 1 goes here. And you're probably wondering what I'm going to do with a center. Well, that's pretty much the cool part that I figured out about this. So first, let's finish placing the things we have. We have these little weapons mounts. So we're going to grab these guys, come on, and attach them to the outer edge And kind of the only purpose while these exist are to provide these attachment points. I need one on the outside for the weapons, and I need one on the inside, which I will get to in just a moment. So there's all of the original pieces plus the two new habs that I've added on, and then the two new support sections. But other than that, the ship is exactly the same. And as it is right now, minus the weapons, I'm a little bit to the credit positive. But now we're going to start on this inside. So let's replace a couple of the things that I deleted, which was the cargo container. So if you go to the side, let's go to cargo. What you're looking for is the caravel. These have a mass of 64, but a cargo of 300. Now you could add larger ones in here that have lower mass, but you will lose a significant amount of storage space. As you go up later, there are other ones that you can get and fit inside that would increase your mass quite a bit more, see? But as it is now, if you use this, spin one over to here, and then on here, and then on here. And this is where all the storage improvement comes in. Now you're wondering, there's this nice little dip in here. Well, that's actually kind of on purpose. What you're going to want to do is right here, center mass of the ship, get. Now we're going to look for shields. And then the best shield you can get in here without, this requires a class B, this is the best shield that you can get at 405 for max health. Out of all of these, you can get this one, which is 420 with a max power of 5, but that's 27 mass. This is 28. You know what? Actually, I'm going to go with this one. So slap this puppy right in the middle. And then remember we took off the fuel tanks. So the fuel tanks, if you were to try to put them here, there's only two vertical ones that we can use. The others snap to the side. Now technically, you could snap fuel tanks on the back of here, but your ship would either be uneven or you would put two small tanks. I'm just going for the connection at the top here with the fuel tanks. Now you could do 50 or you could do 70, but see, it's 2 extra mass for the 70. But basically, like, to do a longer course, all you have to do is stop and land on a planet, and you could deal with your jumps just as easy. But if you want to plot a longer jump, you would need the larger tanks. Now, in the budget for the mass of the ship, it does allow for the larger tanks. So I'm going to go ahead and replace it with that one. They look identical, so it doesn't change the size of the ship at all. Now for the engines, notice these are mass of 100. So if I move these off, go to the connection point. Now let's check the engines. Those are the White Dwarf 1000s. You can get the 1010 or the 1020 for the mass. I'm actually going to get the 1010 engine just because it will save 1 mass. Same thing on this side. And then I'm going to sell these, which will give me 90% of the money back. So like if you look now, we are just under 20,000 credits and we've completely worked the ship. And the cool thing is we've taken the storage from the tiny storage it had, which was shielded, but now we have massive amounts of storage that is unshielded. And then once you get to here, your ship is almost complete. You do have a couple of options. Now this is 26, it's 26 masses, but you get 9 power. max power to the grav jump, 16 thrust, and the drive here. So you can keep this, or if you want to try to replace it, if you look at grav drives, you'll see there's kind of a problem. Based on the mass, most of the ones that are better significantly increase the mass. So there's really no point in changing this. This will do. However, the reactor is a completely different story. This reactor actually kind of sucks. So let's look at replacing it. And for the reactors, if you look at the amount of power produced versus weight, you can actually get a generator that produces 2 more power that you can put towards weapons or whatever. It is a little bit expensive, but you can put this generator on for the exact same mass, which will give you the edge when it comes to combat and weapons and everything like that. So as you see here, I still have 2 extra power and 1 extra shield power just based on as it is. But we're not done. It's time now to work with weapons. So I'd like to point out you have 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, sorry about that. And come on. 8 weapons ports. Now the problem is, since I've modified this ship, it sits much lower to the ground. Much smaller profile, so it's harder for the enemy to hit. But, oh, and by the way, one of the purposes of putting this in the front is to help absorb some of the impact to protect you from being targeted for things like your engines and reactors from the front. But in order to fit a weapon onto the bottom here, there's not much room. However, if you're looking for one of the most low profile weapons, you have the CE-09 missile launcher. This does 36 hull damage and 36 shield damage. And 1 on top, 1 on this side, and 1 on this side. You now have 4 of these pumping out 4 missiles at a time at an enemy that does a huge amount of damage. Now on these, you're going to pick a laser weapon and the electron beam. Now there's one that does more. Where is it? This one, the IR laser. This does 14 shield damage, but only 4 hull damage. And you want to be able to use all your weapons as you need them to take out targets. You don't want to have to rely on one thing or another. So this does 13. You're only giving up 1 shield damage in order to do way more hull damage once their shields are down. And I'm going to put 4 of them. And this is where it's getting expensive with all these weapons. And there we are, 53,310. And you're probably wondering about a third weapon. We'll never put a third weapon if you can avoid it, because the catch is you have to allocate your power between each of the weapons, and that allocated power determines how fast they can fire. So if you give more power to 2 weapons, you can basically fire them non-stop. If you split that power up amongst 3, you're losing 1/3 of the capability of each of the other weapons. So I use 2 types, particle beams of some sort and missiles, and I look for ones that do equal damage to both the shield and the hull. And if you look at the original weapons that came with the ship, you were doing like 9 damage, 15 damage, and 60 damage. Well, once this is done, you're going to see that there's a lot. Let's go ahead and go to the flight check. Again, the weapons must be assigned to a group and has missing slots. So go to weapons, left mouse is going to be my electron beam, right mouse is my missiles. And that's all there is to it. I don't assign a third. But now if you look at my weapons capability, now you see what can be done total with the entire thing. Grav drive, ignore. Only ever put one slot into the grav drive because that's all it needs. All it does is make it spool up faster. Yes, you could jump a little bit farther, but then you're dealing with fuel and everything else. And 90% of your travels, you will only be jumping medium distances at the most. It is very rare you're going to be jumping all the way across the map unless you're going home, at which point it is essentially fast travel. It just skips all of your individual jumps along the way, so I don't even bother with a massive grav drive. But here is the finished ship, and now let's look at the stats. 52 particle damage, which is significantly more than it was before. The missile damage is 144. So, needless to say, you could do some serious damage. And remember, this is both two shields and hull equally. The hull on the ship is at 525 because you added extra pieces, so it does increase the hull quite a bit. Your shield capacity is at 420. That is pretty much the best you can get on a Class A ship. Cargo capacity. We went from 400 and no, it wasn't even 400, it was like 260 cargo capacity to 1460 cargo capacity. Unfortunately, we still only have a max crew of 2. If you wanted to substitute one of these sections, you could add in like a systems bay that would give you 4 extra people that you can have on the ship. However, if you did that, you would lose, or you would have a whole bunch of people and no beds, and then you're standing in line for the one bed that you have. So I'm saving all that stuff for a Class B ship. Your jump range went down 1, so I went from 16 light years down to 15 light years because of the increase of the mass and everything on the ship. My mobility is still at 100, and remember, I lowered the engines to 1 less than what was originally there because that's such a minor change. However, you did save some extra mass, but you still have a mobility of 100, top speed of 150, and as you can see, I did raise the mass of the ship considerably, but that was very much on purpose. So I'm not going to bother the cosmetics and repainting the pieces yet. I will do that off video, so you don't have to sit here for an hour and watch me go through all the different paint options. But I am going to paint it red and white, the exact same as my other ship, because that's just the color theme that I like. And so I'm not going to make you sit through all of that. Now, you do have the one warning, if you look at the bottom right, but that one warning is simply saying that I am missing a weapons assignment. That's just letting me know that I don't have a third weapon. I don't even use it. So it's no problem. You can ignore that. And we are done. Now this is going to cost me 53,310 caps. But I have significantly upgraded the ship and given myself a lot of extra capability. So let's back out. Let's accept. And here we are. Thank you very much. Now let's go do a quick inside tour. So as you can see, still got the original cockpit. Like I said, the low profile weapon. This is the only one you can fit on here. Technically you could put others, but they would quite literally clip into the ground. This one sits a hair's breadth. If you stand back and look and crouch down, it will fit like a single sheet of paper underneath it. That's how tight it is to the ground. But if you want to maximize your weapons points, that's how you do it. Now, when you go through and repaint all this, it works very seamless because even if you wanted to keep this paint color, you can. You can go in and paint these halves with that, but because of the way they're rounded, it actually fits the style quite well. I'm not super crazy about the framework to hold the weapons. But when you're lower level and you haven't upgraded your ship building or anything, you do have limitations, but I still think that it works well. Again, I'm not crazy about the back entrance. I prefer that to enter from the front of my ship, because when you land, you can see where things are. And unfortunately, because of the placement of materials, you can't put portholes or anything on the back. So yeah, you're kind of getting out of your ship blind. But once you get in, it's actually pretty cool how it works out. Now remember, I set mine up so I enter directly into the work bay. So I have weapons, suit, and an industrial workbench. I can still do my research here. And then cutter crate, so I could store a couple of cutters, which is kind of silly. You pretty much only ever carry one. But I guess you could use it just to store to keep it from filling up your ship's inventory. Now if you come in on this side, this is my captain's quarters. So I have one bed here. I have a shower. Oh, there is two beds here. So this is one for me and one for my companion. So hopefully we won't be fighting over beds too much. There's a tiny bit of storage that's provided with each of these sections, but honestly, it's kind of, you know, you don't count. I mean, basically the only thing I'll ever put in here would be like magazines or things that I don't want to accidentally sell. But once you're here, again, you have all of your workplace. Go onto this side and you have your armory. Now this is again where you can store suits, and this space will not be counted by your ship's inventory. So you can put suits, multiple weapons, a storage box here that you could fill with tons of melee weapons and stuff. You could fit quite a few weapons on your display racks, crates. This is a heavy weapons crate. So you could put one of your big heavy weapons in there. You have all of these different storages around, helmet storage, backpack storage, ammo cases, but unfortunately ammo's weightless, so there's no point really of using it. But if you fill all of these boxes, and there's quite a few around, all of these boxes can take up well over a couple of 100 kilos or pounds. It's the aluminum versus aluminium there. If you use all these boxes, it could save you a few hundred extra pounds on your cargo capacity. Now the reason why I put this room forward is because if I were to put the hatch underneath, one of these would have a ladder. And like if the ladder's here, it would be blocking the doorway. If I had the ladder here, it would make it difficult to get to this storage. But since you need to add one section anyway, put it right behind, and then it's easier to get into a place. If you need to dock at a space station, you just come to here rather than running all the way to the back of the ship. But the most important thing, again, is to simply get this ladder out of the way. And this single storage room is the best way to do that. And of course, the rest of the ship is exactly the same. Yeah. You've got your own bed. I wish I could assign it to you. But here's the ship. Let's get it into orbit and see how she flies. Now, again, I've actually given it a little bit of a lower profile than what it was before.
Struts retracting. Let's get out of here. We're locking into orbit now.
Alright, so let's see how she turns. Okay. Now, if you check out the weapons at the bottom left, I have 4 into engines. You can do 5 if you need it. Shield, I can add the 1 extra that I have to shield, or I can keep it down for use for grav drive. In this case, the engine speed is good. It's pretty standard. It's the same pretty much as it was before, but now I have 1 extra shield, and if you look at my weapons, they are pretty strong. Let's give them a try. So I have guns, 4 beams. Let's try missiles. I'm going to let them run out. There we go. See how fast they recharge. My particle is recharged. Yeah, you could just pretty much go unlimited. Now, the missiles do take a moment more to recharge, but again, it's 155 damage per volley. Let's count the volleys, because it's just about recharged. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 missiles at 155 damage per volley. So that's a little over, what, 1200 damage? So, yeah. That is what this can do. Now, if you're fighting a pirate, you'll normally take a moment to target your next pirate. And then once you get in there, you can again take them on with your standard lasers to take out their shields. By the time your shields are out, and they're well over destroyed at that point. So this is what you could do to upgrade the Razorleaf without even having any of the shipbuilder perks. You could turn it into a place with plenty of extra storage, and don't forget your companions. If you unload, take a person as your companion, you can unload junk on them, switch, go get Vasco as your companion, unload a bunch of junk on him. You can have the capacity of all those storage crates, all those displays, and all of your companions on top of the 1,460 cargo capacity of this ship. So I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a call on there and let you see what's possible with this ship with about 55,000 credits to spare. And in the meantime, I'm going back to the surface because I am going to get the paint job on this thing set up the way I like it. But I'm not going to make you guys watch that. You will get to see that in the next video. And give it a moment. Here we go, back on the ground. So I'm going to start doing some painting on this ugly old mess here. But I'll see you guys next time, and you'll get to see what she looks like then, because I will probably be starting right back here. Till then, see you guys next time.